Hey yo, I have not been walking very much. Going on one of these. It's been maybe, how long? Like, what, a month maybe? Possibly. Around that. Let's go this way. Won't be too much talking in this one, but just a bit. Mostly just walking. Going around the bend. Down there. You ever heard of, I'm sure you have, but being radical. There's different ways to be radical, but I like to look at the version radical love because radical love is different, man. Radical love is different. It's different from what you usually do. A lot of people are radical, but they're radical in the worst ways. But some, if not most, of your decisions, maybe take that with a grain of salt, should be a little radical. Now, when I'm saying that, I'm talking more about the sense of, like, for example, just explaining, with radical love, you're essentially loving no matter what. It means someone's rude to you, you love them. They hurt you, you love them. They give you pain, you give them pleasure. You know, it's the exact opposite. It's the rule of opposites, man. Now, it doesn't mean to let people walk all over you. Love isn't walking all, letting people do that, or walk all over you or anything. But it is, because you still need boundaries, but it is putting yourself in a place where no matter what they are doing, you fell in love anyway. I ain't going and explain what love is all I want. Done it in plenty of videos. Let's go check those if you want. But for a briefing, when we're talking about love, we're talking about sort of just kindness as part of love. Standards as part of it. Forgiveness, grace as part of it. Saying what is best for someone, that is part of it. These are what's part of it. Not the full thing, but these are part of the things. Also a part of love is standing with good and not with evil. But you can still love an evil person, but not loving what they do. There's a difference there. We're not perfect, man. We make mistakes, and part of being loving is accepting that. You know, people say they love and that they forgive people, yet they can't forgive themselves. And they don't truly forgive others. They say, oh, no matter how many times you do it, I'll forgive you. But they don't. They never do. This isn't everyone, but it's a majority. I've said before as well, just for repeat's sake, that loving is and forgiving does not mean people have access to you. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean they have access. Forgiving is putting the hate out of your heart. You are supposed to forgive before you ever hear a sorry. I said I wasn't going to talk long in this video. But yeah, how you doing? Doing alright? I don't go on this channel as much. Doing other stuff with other channel and other stuff in general. So I haven't been on here in a minute. But, I come back from time to time. Once every few months. Sometimes I do a spurt of videos. But I want an excuse to come out here. For some reason, at least. So this was my excuse. And man, I wanted to talk about radicalness. Not only radical love, but other radical things. When I think about radical, I think about you don't care. Like, it's like the ultra extreme of something. That's what I think of when I think of radical. Extreme, not in the middle. It's expressly what I think of. If you're extreme, you're saying yes or no. It's part of yes and no be no. You're saying yes or no. Let's look at some examples for radicalness. Let's look at radical love. There's some bad examples. It could be radically hateful, or radically into hurting others. You could be radically not caring about others. You could radically not care about yourself. Anything, you can do anything radically. It's just about being extreme about it, being fully on one side of it. It removes the nuance. When you're radically loving, you don't care. Like, when you're radical about it, there's no hate existing. It's choosing one side. That's why people talk about radical for Christ. If we're talking about that, then you're radically sort of, like, it's like you're choosing one thing over another thing. You know, you can't have apples and oranges at the same time. You choose apples or oranges. It's just logical. Radicalness is also logical. At least I believe so. Disagree if you want, I guess. But I believe it is logical to choose one thing or the other. Granted, some things can be nuanced, and some things aren't meant to be radicalized. So it's not actually 100% everything. But it's a lot of things. A lot of things can be radicalized in a very good way, and things can also be radicalized in a very bad way. Like I said, with radical hate, that's a bad version of radicalism. Whatever you want to call that. But radical is good in certain contexts, especially when it's good things. I think something that I'm trying to do is to be radical about, like, my sort of health and look. I'm in the process of shaping it, so if I'm being radical about it, I'm choosing to go a certain way with it and be radical just for that, right? Like, let's get that thing. We're saying, okay, it might even result in radical actions for me. That would be like cutting lots of stuff, or certain types of food, or maybe it would be radical movement, or a radical routine, or whatever it is. For me personally, one of those things would be radical diet. For me, that's a reduction of almost everything. Not even just calories, but general sustenance. Basically, I eat less. And this is only a recent change, so I haven't been able to see the massive results just yet. So that's how it's going to be when it's a recent change. You gotta wait a little bit. Try it out. But it's radical. You can be radical about a passion. Try it one way. See if it works. And if it doesn't, you move. What I've just been engaging in is radical silence. That's what I've been engaging in. You can do that too. It's me saying I don't need to talk. Now the title's not having as much talking. There we go. Radical silence. Also, just to talk about, head off the radical part, just to talk about, like, silence. Technically, it counts towards it, don't get me wrong. It counts toward radical silence, but, which I do think radical silence is very good. I definitely do. Also, radical talking is good at certain times. It really is a balance. Radical talking can be good because you don't care what you're saying. You're just talking. Sometimes you just let it come out. You don't care about what someone thinks about what you're saying. You're just saying it. That can be useful, but radical silence can also be useful. Again, you don't always have to be radical about everything at all times, but it can be useful when you use it on purposely. But I know that when you can be silent for a long period of time, radically silent, you think. For me, that would be, for example, something that you would usually use music on. Say you're in the shower. You used to put music on. Now I don't. Okay, what else? If you used to put music when working, now you don't. You get to exist in the thing that you're actually doing. Another thing, taking off your music. Maybe when you're walking like this. Radical silence of music when you're doing not just work, but maybe some chores, or you're folding your laundry. Just people do their chores. They they get to the dishes and they put on their music. No, you just turn it off. Not only do you get the thing done faster when you turn off your music, maybe you don't do that. Maybe you like music. Maybe it makes you work faster. But for me, turn it off. You can focus on what you're doing. Now, if it's on the background, it's kind of like low key. It can sometimes be okay. But I've noticed that there is a benefit when you turn it off to being able to really think. So if you want to think, turn off the noise is good. It's best when you want to think. It builds character, confidence. It improves your life when you just shut it off. Shuts out an internal monologue. You exist in your own world. Not in the sense that you don't care about anyone, but you're just existing without fear of judgment for how you are, or what you do, or what you say. And that's a powerful place to be. It actually is very drawing to others too, if that's what you want, I guess. And even if it's not what you want, it's going to be the reality. But it's drawing, that attitude. The attitude of existing, not caring about judgment, which is, like I said, not very easy to cultivate. It takes longer for others than it does for others. Some it takes moments, mere moments, or some experience with a drug. Some is only capable under influence. Some it takes years, decades. Could be either. Could take 1, 2 years, or it could take like 10, 12. It's over time. You get there. Part of radicalization is also not fitting in, you could say. It's saying, you know what? I don't need to fit in. No. Conformity comes from you wanting to be liked. It's a social and survival mechanism that we've cultivated, evolved into, sort of even built systems around, convinced ourselves of, but we've always used it, conformity, so that we can sort of have more life and survive. And it can be useful, 100% it can. But, and some things are fine to conform to. Someone's looking up at a building, something might fall, you look up too, right? So something like that's fine. But conformity can also be used in bad ways to make you feel horrible about yourself. Very, very easily it can. You can find yourself conforming to certain standards. I also realize it can be uncomfortable to walk after a while for me, right? Like, it's been a minute, right? Sometimes you gotta push through that discomfort. It ain't gonna feel good. Do it anyway. Pain ain't nothing, bro. Pain is what makes you feel alive. And that can be taken in many ways, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. But you can conform to standards, or you can be radical. Radical says, and we're talking about radically unconforming. We're talking about, I'm not going to be like them because their standards, what they think of me, no longer matters. Now, conformity comes with benefits. Many, many benefits. Could be monetary. Emotional. Physical. When you have so many benefits, it's hard not to want to do it, to conform. And even this platform has conformity. Conform to the standard of the algorithm. What gets clicks. So when you don't conform, you have to come with the consequence of that action. Meaning, you do not get the benefits you would have gotten otherwise. So, you legitimately lose your benefits. That benefit you had that was monetary, it's gone. That social status, it's gone. It's all gone. It's all gone. So don't conform. Even though I just told you that, you know, there it is. I didn't even have to tell you the positives of not conforming. Just don't conform. I told you negatives and I said don't conform. That's me not conforming to the idea of giving you a nice little package. Because I don't want to. Most of it comes from wanting to be liked. Because if you're not, back in history, actually even outside of that, you could say back when you needed to struggle to hunt or farm, you could even compare that. And it's the same thing, even now. It's still the same thing, survival. It's the same. But it's not even just that. The other factors do factor in. And they might even have more of an effect. You could even call me not talking when others are around conformity. And you would be right. As much as you could say something like, what I would say is, well, I just can't think when I'm around. If they're around, they can hear me, I can't think. Well, then at that point, you can say that all you want, but that's still conformity. If you can't think about thoughts, that's conformity. That means that their opinion matters so much that it conforms you to an action. Conformity ends up making you do an action that you wouldn't otherwise do. And conformity is very strong because you don't want to, because you want to be liked. You don't want to look weird. You don't want to be ostracized. Like I said, you don't want the consequences. I didn't give you a reason not to conform. But the biggest reason, if I had to give one, is freedom. It's freedom because, like I said, conformity makes you who you're not. When you conform, you're doing something you wouldn't otherwise do. So when you don't conform, you're saying, okay, I am not going to compromise who I am for others. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. And that's the smartest reason to do that for. That is obviously the smartest reason. That's why you don't conform. Again, you can anyway. I won't even blame you for it. I do it. Daily. Momentarily. Every moment. I mean, not every moment, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean. Like, it's hard. You know, it happens, it's there. You have to actively combat it. But, like, you probably did it multiple times today. Probably within the last hour. Maybe within the last few minutes. It's that subtle. Because there's so many things that you do that's impacted by others. It's impacted by how you want to be perceived. And it's not even always about action. It's also about your mindset and what you say. That also matters. So, a big part of radicalization, tying it all in, is to radically not conform. And the reason why you radically not conform is so that you can learn how to not conform. A part of radicalization, by the way, is sure you're going to radicalize and you're going to be a certain way hardcore, but you also can pull back on certain aspects after you fully radicalize in that way. So you radicalize yourself to understand how it really is and why you didn't, for example, in conformity, why you didn't need that, or you didn't need to conform to everything. Radicalizing your diet so you realize you didn't need to eat all that food. You learn something from that radicalization, and you can pull it back. You radicalize, you don't eat that food, and now you bring it back once it's better, you can do it in a healthier way. Radicalize by not conforming, you look a little weird, and then you conform a little bit here and there. That's how you do it. That's the point of radicalization. It all ties in. That being said, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed. Maybe more videos come soon, maybe not. I don't know. All I do know is that's the end of this one. Hope you enjoyed. Watch more if you want. Do what you want to do. I ain't gonna make you. With that being said, hopefully I'll see you next time. And I'll see if I see you when I see you. I'll see you when I see you if I see you. In peace, my friend.